stores are ashe na eyade a eyo how ye enti nedika meda fire service for ase ene modern boy amoye ya omwetimi abre ejano ano ase na yewie ano a na yahwe na ema ni si enso ade ba ko a fire for aka kire me ne se ombedru ye no se na ombetimi awuremu etimi akodum jano eno ya ade ba ko a eha ombuye na wo hwa yedwam bebre saa na tie enti ejato mu a se na fire for betimi edru ho etimi edum jano ntem no na abeye ohaw ama omo enti o se ye di we su anyansa na ye hwa yedwa no da ye planning ni ye se na be ya bibi kosi a na etimi aso anu ntem enti ye ni minister ne edwadifo no ebeka ya ka che nadmo se ombehwe na omumpe emoabi emfa mo omo kakra ye ni chief of staff nso bekasa enti nya Asante regional minister ene ombeka no na ya hwe emoa ebetimi de abo omo se na be ya omo so ombenya yi comfort kakra ene ohawa ato omo no se na be ya ye bebre anu ase kakra and so senior mekan no say o si ye hwe ye dwane nyina na ye hwe se na ebesiesie nneoma afa se na be ya bibi se sia enkosi sa achina biom ye gina hey ultimate to say explosion be cause wo ho ni na ye gas cylinder se wate ba ko ni na ye gas cylinder se explode ejom eni se ye use gas cylinder e wo jom eni se enu aduane wo jom o pese o didi a o se o ko abonte koto aduane bra na onua wo fie na o de aduane no bra e ba jom and so gas cooker ne sa nyoma ni na e ka ho e na sa nyoma esi and so ne wo ho ne se mema omo a sa atorenchemi aka omo no mema omo ko se na aban so be hwe se ne be ya ye betimi aso omo mu kakra. Like previous tree planting campaigns, focus solely on numbers. Tree for Life is about sustainability. It's not just about calling people out to plant trees, but it's about ensuring that the trees grow, they thrive, and provide long-term benefits for our communities. This initiative will prioritize rehabilitating lands that have been destroyed by illegal mining. We'll work with traditional leaders, local communities, and youth groups to restore these lands into productive green spaces that support agriculture, ecotourism, and sustainable timber production. Distinguished guests, no single institution or government can achieve this vision alone. The Tree for Life initiative's success depends on all Ghanaians' collective efforts. Number one, traditional authorities. As custodians of the land, I urge you to actively support this initiative by offering degraded lands for reforestation and ensuring that the communities uphold sustainable environmental practices. And therefore, the Acting Chief Fire Officer, Daniela Mausin Tosapong, as Chief Fire Officer, your leadership must focus on prevention through public education, emergency response readiness, and strict enforcement of fire safety regulations. Fire audits must be effective and safety laws enforced without compromise. For our new Controller General of the Ghana Immigration Service, surveillance at all entry and exit points must be strengthened and modernized to detect and prevent illegal activity. As I said yesterday, you are among the category of public officers obliged to declare your assets upon assuming office and also upon leaving office. A lot of your predecessors have failed to declare their assets, including ministers and CEOs who have left. And so the Auditor General must follow them and get them to comply. The Director General of SIGA will ensure that you all comply with your assets declarations. The Auditor General will submit a list of those who have complied by an agreed cut-off date, and those who fail to comply would be sanctioned, including possible removal from office. My vision for reform is clear, anchored on performance, accountability, and national interest. Under my leadership, specified entities will be transformed into engines of growth, aligning with our goal of a 24-hour economy that expands job opportunities and drives industrialization. At the center of this transformation is SENA, which will evolve from a passive observer into an empowered enforcer of national interests.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Well, good morning and thank you for choosing Pan-African Television. We are live from the studios at Tabelenke. We are live on TV, Pan-African Television. We are live on social media. Facebook, Pan-African Television is the page you should be looking for. Look for the same channel on YouTube, Pan-African Television, and watch us live. I am SENA, NOMBO, and I welcome you to today's edition of the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. Here, we say it how it is supposed to be said. In the end, we'll leave you better educated. Well, we are also live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. We are live on many other affiliate radio stations across the country. Thank you for joining us. This morning, we're having a discussion on Galamsey. A few things have happened. First, the president himself has been talking about the fact that if you are in his government, you cannot be a minor. You cannot be a minor and be an appointee of his. You have to choose one. The IGP has also declared a war against Galamsey, ordered his officers to go hard and fight against Galamsey. In the meantime, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has also been briefing us on the efforts they've made and the results they are getting. He said out of the 9 forests he was concerned about, they've been able to reclaim 7, with 2 outstanding that they are working to reclaim. He said they've been taken over by thugs, and they've been able to drive out the thugs in 7 out of the 9. And they are going all out to ensure the fight is won. We'll be talking about the fight against Galamsey illegal mining. And of course, they've been withdrawing licenses that were issued after December 7th. Over 100 of them. They've revoked all those mining licenses that were issued. And then we'll move on to the discussion. The Deputy Attorney General tells me they secured a search warrant for the house of the former governor of the Bank of Ghana. The National Security was asked to conduct the search. They went there, came back, briefed them that they followed all due process in carrying out the search. They've never received any complaints from Mr. Dr. Addison that anything untoward was done. That's what he told me. Avenue Makin's account is different. That it was a raid, which means illegal. And in the process, some 10,000 was lost, 10,000 Ghana cedis. Jewelries were taken away, and cars were driven out and parked somewhere, and the governor was called to come and pick up those cars there. Those are the 2 accounts. But the Attorney General's Department still insists that nothing untoward was done. It was carried out legally. And talking about the actions of the national security, 2 officers, police officers, have been sued by Mr. Ken Oforiatta for trespassing. Remember that search on his house too. He is also sued the special prosecutor. His issue is he's defamed him by declaring him a fugitive. So we'll talk about that in our very second discussion. But we'll stay on matters of national security in the broader context, because the president has been making some changes. Every person who headed the National Security Agency is gone. New heads will take over. In fact, in the army, the takeover will start from this Monday. We'll be talking about these changes and the impact on national security. So those are the issues we'll be discussing today. And of course, joining me this morning, nice to see him. It's been quite a while since I saw him. Coming with surprise, who is General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. I wanted to hear his thoughts on the budget that has been put forward, but I think there's still time for him to talk about the budget and trying to salvage our economy. Well, it's nice to see him this morning. And of course, nice to see lawyer Alhaji And Alhaji, who is spokesperson for the Movement for Change. And then we are also joined by former Member of Parliament for Anyaso Utum, Admako Kisi. Doc, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Well, so that's our panel for today. Mr. Kojochumba was supposed to join us, but unfortunately he will not be able to join us due to some circumstances beyond his control. So this is our panel that we'll run with today on Alhaji and Alhaji. We have to start the discussion from the issue of Galamsey. I found out one time that Andrew Appiah Dankwa, who is a private legal practitioner, actually is someone who did environmental engineering or something at Tech. Yes. So I'll start with him. Because nice to see you this morning. Good morning once again.
Yeah, morning, SENA. So always a pleasure to be on your show. Language, Uncle Chrissy Pratt, good morning. To reiterate my view that it's always, for me, it's always a privilege and a pleasure to share the platform with him. And then my own dog. I always say he reminds me of the old MPP, and I know it won't be easy to still be in the MPP with those good values, because right now the party there, the familiar spirit is permeating every single word. I wish you all the best. Hopefully you can purge the party of the negative and restore it to factory setting with all the right ideals and values. And to wish your viewers once again a good morning. And I think we are back talking about Galamsey. And it's sad that we have to spend time talking about Galamsey because, like my position has always been, the issue about Galamsey is not about lack of laws to regulate how we utilize our natural resources. The issue of Galamsey, in my view, is just a matter of a fundamental lack of commitment by people we have given our powers to use the powers we have given them for the good of the people. I think the starting point for any discussion that Galamsey has to be Article 257 of our Constitution. Unlike the other time when we spoke about Galamsey, to don't go the 11th way. Go the 11th way. So let's just stick to Article 257 of the Constitution, because for me that should be the starting point. Now, if you read Article 257 of our Constitution, and with your permission, let me read, particularly the 6 clause 6, which says that every mineral in its natural state, in, under, or upon any land in Ghana, rivers, streams, water courses throughout Ghana, the exclusive economic zone, and any area covered by the territorial sea or continental shelf is the property of the Republic of Ghana and shall be vested in the President on behalf of any trust for the people of Ghana. I think that should be the starting point. The starting point is the fact that every mineral in Ghana in its natural state is for the people of Ghana, is for all of us. And within the wisdom of the framers of the 1992 Constitution, they felt that they needed to create a trust in the President to hold the resources for and on behalf of the people of Ghana. So to analyze the obligation that falls on the President, they need to understand the kind of obligation is that a trust creates in you. Because by the creation of a trust, what essentially we are saying is that you are putting a legal title of those minerals in the name of the President of Ghana, but you're supposed to hold them in trust for and on behalf of the people of Ghana. So directly, a fiduciary has been created in the President in how he handles that legal title. That means that any decision that the President makes concerning the utilization of any mineral resource in a country, any decision he takes at all, that decision must be a decision that is in the best interest of the people of Ghana. I think that's a foundational discussion. Also, now, if it ought to be in the interest of Ghana, then we need to understand that in how you utilize the resources, the natural resources, it needs to be sustainable. When we say it needs to be sustainable, then it means that you need to find the right balance between maximizing economic gain from these resources without disturbing the ecological balance of the environment, because the resources are largely in the soil and some are in the water bodies. And you understand that whether land, whether water, they also serve as an ecological. There's an ecology around it, because natural resources or life need to exist in these what's called ecological bases, being the soil or the two. Because the trust has been created in the trust has been created in the president, there's also the need for the president to protect their property. You understand? You need to protect the property, so you must not sit down aloof and allow the property to be stolen from you. It is critical that we understand that by virtue of a trust being created in the president, then there's an obligation on the president to more or less protect the properties from being stolen. Now, within the context or the framework of the kind of constitution we took upon ourselves, which essentially is meant to be a constitution that limits powers. When a trust was created, Parliament was then tasked to also create institutions that would help aid the president in undertaking this obligation. And so, in fact, the 1992 Constitution gave Parliament a time frame, and that's the basis for the creation of the Minerals Commission, Forestry Commission, the EPA. You understand? Even Lands Commission, all those commissions which are involved in aiding the president to utilize in the utilization of our natural resources, were all created with the mindset of we exploiting our resources sustainably through institutional support. So it shouldn't be a case that I am the president can become president because of my commitment towards environmental, so I go a certain way. But once it is institutionalized, then at least you can have a consistent agenda in how we utilize our natural resources. So you have the Minerals Commission, you have the Lands Commission, you have the Forestry Commission, you understand? And all of their duties, EP, all of their duties is to aid the president in the utilization of these natural resources. Now, we understand that in how the president utilizes these powers, he uses what we call the policy of concessions. So the president will give concession through his minister to people who either to explore or to actually mine, do proper mining. Now, to analyze the fight on Galamsey, we need to put it into proper perspective, and that perspective cannot be put well without analyzing the weaknesses in the institutions. I think those weaknesses, in my view, were one of the major reasons why the issue of Galamsey over the past 8 years came to the fore. And it's sad, and we all see the impact of weaknesses in managing our natural resources. Right now, you have a situation where our river bodies are practically brown. They are like Milo. A very good friend of mine that owns the Ankobra Beach Resort, and it's sad that you go there and then the beach there has the sea there just around the area is like Milo. Yeah, you understand? But clearly, one, it was because of weaknesses in the institutions and bad leadership. You understand? Leadership that more or less fail to appreciate the obligations that lies on him. And I'm saying talk about institutional weakness because fundamentally, like I said, we need to protect our property. And when people are doing Galamsey, the first thing they are doing is to steal the property of Ghana. So are we saying that the police didn't see people, or they have never seen people doing galamsey? Why is that the police have failed to use the powers we have granted them to to protect the property of the country? Because they see the excavators moving around, they see the chamfines, they see people digging, and the police have not done anything. You get a picture. So as much as for the purpose of politics, want to do a comparative analysis and to say that, oh, President Mama is sending the right signals and all, for me, it's a worry. Because I think that when I say it's a worry, I'm not talking about President Mama sending the right signals. We don't want a situation where how we protect our natural resources will depend on who becomes president of Ghana. We need to find a way of strengthening the institutions so that mining is done properly. Because there's nothing wrong with mining. You need to understand that generally there's nothing wrong with mining, because there's a purpose why they are as we have them, because they are supposed to serve as the natural resource base for us to then grow economically as a country. So there's nothing wrong with mining. The issue is, how do you mine in a manner one that is sustainable, that does not impact negatively on your ecosystem? How do you do it? What strategies must you have? And those strategies, in my opinion, must be institutionalized. So one, you take the minerals commission. That the commission that has been created directly to more or less manage the operations of mining in this country. How strong are they? That they are over centralized. Everything is in Accra. So per the laws, we have district offices and all, but how strong are they? Do they have the tools? So for me, I see what the minister is doing. I see what the president is doing. I see what the IGP is saying. But why didn't we see same in the old regime? Understand? So is it a case that when His Excellency Jomama leaves office, you have a new leader whose focus probably will not be like his, and so because of that, then the fight is going to be lost again? Is that the case? So for me, I think as much as the call for action is now that one, we sound a signal. That is that we are not going to tolerate galamsey. I think that signal, the benefit of those signals cannot be permanent unless and until His Excellency John Mahama uses the power that he has to strengthen the institutions that are meant to aid in the exploitation of our natural resources. So the Minerals Commission needs to be strengthened. I've always believed in decentralization. They need to decentralize it, because SENA, if you attempt to go through the process to acquire mineral license, as in it's so onerous. I think we should look at finding a way of decentralizing that licensing process. Two, when you go to a forestry commission, they seem to have some force that protects, that are meant to protect the forestry, the forest, and how even timber is utilized. Even they are not too, even that institution, in my view, is not too strengthened. We need to do more. But the Minerals Commission, for example, the Minerals Commission has nothing. So we must institutionalize the creation of some form of gas to protect our mineral resources. You get a picture. And also, we must think about environmentally led alternative livelihood solutions. The last time when I was with the minister here, the Minister for Environment, he was talking about carbon credit. We must have a serious discussion about it. We must have a serious discussion about carbon credit, about how we can leverage on carbon sequestration as a means of giving an alternative livelihoods to the people in the mining areas. And now carbon credit activities will deal with two issues. One, there's the environmental side, which will mean that we have enough trees to sequestrate carbon in the system, and also make some money out of it for the benefit of the locals. I know that because of the agreements we signed in 1989, that the what's called the climatic change issue. I know the Ministry of Environment, the Forestry Commission, and then Finance. They must find a way of bringing about a policy which will enable the locals to benefit from carbon credit. The benefit of carbon credit, because we can't deal with this issue without also taking into consideration alternative livelihood solutions for the people. Yeah, you understand? So for me, I see what, as I said, I see what His Excellency is doing. I've heard the minister yesterday. I was enjoying news, and I saw people trying to make fun of the blue guard. I don't know. We shouldn't make fun of them. Yes, and at least so what the government is doing is sounding a signal that unlike the previous regime, we are going to deal with the Galamsey issues, because the repercussions are there. The repercussions are there, and that's why we keep on saying like it is an existential threat. Because we're talking about issues as in this lead, mercury and things which can alter your DNA. I'm glad the medical doctor is here. He will explain more. You are talking about issues that can alter your DNA, issues that can lead to increase our vulnerability to cancer and all on a personal level. Then you also talk about issues that can impact the ecological balances. Yes, I'm talking about carbon credit here. And fundamentally, within the whole concept of carbon sequestration is the oxygen-carbon balance in the system. Because when God created this world, you all know that we use oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. The trees use carbon dioxide, and then they give off oxygen. Immediately, you exploit your natural resources in a manner that impacts in these ecological balances. Then what you are doing is that you are creating an environment which will make our existence practically impossible. You get a picture. Also, I think on the repeal of that airline that allowed mining in first, I understand they are not repealing. I didn't repeal it.
They are amending it, LI 2462.
The other amendment, or they are repealing it?
Amendment.
No, it should be repealed in its entirety. Under no circumstances should we allow mining in forest reserves. Because there's a reason why the forests are reserved. That's like Kiki will talk about carbon sequestration. But then the world works, nature works on balances. You have water balance, you have this oxygen carbon balance, you have a number of balances that in how we exploit our natural resources, we must ensure that we do it in a manner that does not bring about or impact the equilibrium that we need for us to optimize our existence. So for me, I know we've given them political power. We've created a trust in the president, Article 257. He has, indeed, beyond the minerals, the president has been vested with power over all public lands, over water bodies, over forest cover and everything. The president must understand that there's a reason why, in spite of all the so many obligations that lies on him, when it came to this, the people of Ghana, the freedom of the constitution, for that they need to create a trust in him. You understand? It's not enough that he gives solutions which will be attributed to just him. But if there's a time for us to strengthen the institutions, that will ensure that we manage our natural resources in a manner that will protect our environment and still enable us to exploit same for our common good that is now. He should look at the mineral commission. He must strengthen them. He must do proper decentralization. He must look at the licensing regime. He must look at how they guide the areas where the mines are. He must look at the forestry commission. He must strengthen them. He must look at the EPA. He must strengthen them. You understand? So that it shouldn't matter who is the president of Ghana. Once these institutions are strengthened, once the police is strengthened, once, and when I say strengthened, that issue of we appointing people into the police based on party affiliations and not meritocracy. Because one thing that the past regime and over the years, not just MPP, but even in GM1 and what we've done all the time, is to take away from that spirit of meritocracy. Understand? As against slaughtism. Now, when that happens, you weaken the police. Because like I'm saying, at the bottom of the fight against Galamsey is the burden on us to just enforce the laws. That's all. So I call on leadership that we know it's politics, but this is a real issue, real national issue. Let us collectively fight this Galamsey menace by depersonalizing it and rather strengthening the institutions that the Constitution created to aid the president to discharge his duty as a trust. Once we do that, then I think we would have set in place a regime that will ensure that in how he dispatches or he deals with his obligation under our Constitution, he puts us in a position where we can exploit our natural resources to maximize the economy of it without impacting negatively on our environment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. A few things. First, 2 comments on our WhatsApp platform to draw attention to. This one says, good morning. I kindly suggest that His Excellency the President, who is today and tomorrow the gentleman of the land, must announce that excavated seas should not be bent, rather be used to cover up all the holes dug as death trap before taking them away from the bush to avoid many lives that will fall, many people that will fall into the holes dug out when the forest is covered up with grasses and fresh trees grown. So it's suggesting a reclamation of the environment. In fact, this is a matter of debate because the president insists that you cannot burn excavators. Civil society advocates actually organize a press conference where they insist that when you seize the excavators, burn them. So it's something between civil society and, of course, the view of the president that these excavators can be put to use to work for Ghana. There's Stephen Dovi who says the fact that no Galamsey kingpin has been arrested and prosecuted is enough evidence that we have lost both the fight and approach of tackling the menace. The real experts target, for example, the drug laws to truncate the supply. So exactly what are we doing? It is an exercise in futility. That's Stephen Dovi who sent that one. Then there's this statement coming from, and before I go to Doc, this is from the Forestry Commission, issued by Acting Chief Executive Officer Hugh C.A. Brown. And it's headed, Forestry Commission says record straight on anti-illegal mining efforts. It says the Forestry Commission has noted with concern recent media statements that undermine the significant achievements made through the collaborative efforts of the Ministries of Lands and Natural Resources and Defense in combating illegal mining in forest reserves. The FC wishes to clarify the current situation, particularly regarding 9 forest reserves previously classified as no-go zones due to armed guns blocking access and preventing forest officers from performing their duties. Over the past 3 weeks with military support, the Forestry Commission has successfully cleared these armed groups and illegal miners from 7 of the 9 reserves. Follow-up operations have also led to the arrest of several illegal miners who have been handed over to the police for prosecution. During these operations, the following items were seized: 55 excavators, 3 bulldozers, 4 pickup trucks, 4 pump-action rifles, 11 motorbikes, other mining equipments. Additionally, 71 individuals engaged in illegal mining within forest reserves have been arrested. These operations were conducted in the Ashanti, Western, North, and Western regions. These accomplishments achieved within a short time frame reflect the significant effort and resources invested in this fight. The Forestry Commission and Ministry of Lands acknowledge that the battle against illegal mining is ongoing, but it is crucial to state that these achievements confirm the progress being made as steps toward ultimately winning the fight against these illegal activities. The Forestry Commission remains vigilant and is closely monitoring illegal mining hotspots to address emerging issues promptly. We assure the good people of Ghana, whose lands and forests have been entrusted to our care, that the FC and the ministry are fully committed to working with all stakeholders to ensure this fight is won. Together, we'll protect our forests and natural resources for future generations. Like I said, signed by the Acting Chief Executive Officer Hugh C.A. Brown. Doc.
Yeah. Let me take the opportunity to say hello to your viewers who are both local and foreign, and mostly those who are in the Tamale area. Many times when I get to Tamale, I think one of the programs that people know me for is Alhaji And Alhaji. Let me also deviate a little. And I think earlier on you showed the president's visit to the fire victims. Let me add my voice to it, and let me be very categorical that in terms of our country's wealth and what we devote to prevention of fire or even the management of fire, I think it's very inadequate. And more importantly, I think that a lot more needs to be done in terms of educating the masses, making people aware of how to put out fires in the house, in the kitchen. I'm reminded by this phone call to a husband earlier this year, a woman and kids who could not exit their building and apparently went to keep themselves safe in the bathhouse, which still got engulfed in fire. So I think that a lot more needs to be done. We have some very bad electricians out there, and as part of our fire prevention, it's very important that electricians are certified and that Ghanaians make sure that they use certified electricians. I say this with the greatest respect to artisans, but there's some basic no-nos that can help all of us. So that if you bring a carpenter to your house, you know that if he'll even mess up, he'll mess up to a certain degree. And more importantly are electricians, because some of the fires, unfortunately, are caused by either poor electrical wiring or material. And I'm told that there are imitation or counterfeit wires on the market, which begs the question, what is Ghana Standards Board doing? Or other regulatory bodies that are supposed to quadruple check the cables that we're using on our roofing and in our homes. So these are my thing about saving property and life, and I would also at this point call out bad behaviors of insurance companies in this country who, for one reason or the other, just take insurance and are not forthright and serious about prevention of fire, which engulfs people's house, and the fact that they are almost not liable because the checks and balances are not there. But they need to set the tone. They need to show leadership, because I think insurance is basically property and life, and its protection. So, leading into our major topic for discussion, which is the Galamsey, or shall I say, improper, illegal processes of extracting minerals from our soil. To make it very basic. In fact, I think that something is lost on us as a country. The reason why the Western world called us Gold Coast, I think it's lost on us. And I really think that we need a different mindset to really manage what our forefathers bequeathed to us, and that is minerals. And I say this to rather say that we have not done enough to industrialize mining. And that is what is killing us. And I really think that sometimes, just like in finance, when you underfund, you create room for bad activities and bad things to happen, incorrigible benefactors and things like that. So I'm now rather of a school of thought, and this has nothing to do with my political affiliation with the MPP, because I speak for Ghana today. And I think that Korea and the others have no minerals, but they are a service production economy. We have the minerals, and we are clueless as to the best technologies to extract and to even process, to the extent that, if I can even bore you with some of the realities, the galamseyers go and they take about 20% of the minerals. Then the big guns with big machines go and they're able to extract from that same location more than the galamseyers went in. So what I think clearly is our sickness, which needs to be carefully looked at, is how do we invest heavily into mineral exploration so that the appropriate equipments are used and our water bodies can be protected. You know, community mining was not the fix-it-all, approach. They tried, and they tried with miniature equipments. But I think that maybe if we mine in the quantums of Anglo Gold, in terms of the infrastructural equipment that they use, and rather employ these young guns who go and do illegal mining and pay them appropriately, I think the country may do better. And let me add that, looking at how the American military is using drones, or even the British, we introduced drone technology for supply of medical materials. But I really think that people, in fact, the last time I checked, people were managing drones from the soils of America, with the drones being in Afghan, or, very far from, very remote. And I think that what stops us from having drone guards, let me put it that way, for lack of a better word, because I'm wondering how many meters or kilometers that these river guards or water guards can do in a day, compared to having a drone that is very charged and patrolling these reserves, so that the slightest incursion or movement in the forest can be detected, whether day or night. And I think that what we need are more people who can maybe fly these gadgets and do monitoring. And I like what Lawyer added. If we strengthen the likes of the EPA, a lot of these things may do us very well. And I'm preaching that we use the EPA and its, ability to ensure that our water bodies are safe. In other jurisdictions, if even water is moving from one municipal to the next municipal, the checks, are heavy. And I'm not talking about drinking water. I'm talking about storm and just basic drains. So in that case, if Abelempe and Jolu, or shall I say Abelempe and Legon, the rainwater that moves from one end to the other, the checks to make sure that Legon's water coming to Abelempe is not tainted with minerals that will affect the next, assembly, are some of the major things they do. Imagine what would have happened if Chibi, where a lot of these activities are also going on, water moving from there to the next town, all the way to Koforidua, are checked, and we are looking at a quantum of mercury that moves from one municipal to the next. I mean, these are things strategies that can help us reduce, and when the actions taken against the previous municipal where their water is heavily loaded with lead and all these things, then you see them taking responsibility, so that one stream does not, we don't just take it for granted. We have homes throwing garbage in water bodies as it rains, and these are all things that we take for granted in this country. But one thing is sure for me, this issue of gold exploration or minerals in this country, or diamond, is not necessarily MPP or NDC. And as for me, I mean, listen, I was very hopeful that the MPP would have done better, but to borrow from his words, the spirit that lives in minerals are quite powerful, to the extent that well-meaning men who were hoping to have not succumbed to illegal mining, succumbed to illegal mining. And the same is trying to transpire, though it's early days yet. I'm very careful with, worrying the NDC. I feel that it's early days yet in terms of some of the monumental issues in this country, except for the fact that I think, as for the lights, it must stay on. So, to conclude on this particular topic, I'm thinking that we certainly need to sit carefully and do introspection as to why we were called Gold Coast, and then maybe reorient ourselves to ensure that we are putting in the appropriate amount of investment into mining, so that the illegal ones will be reduced, and all those illegal miners or people who would have been interested in illegal mining will be officially properly registered and educated about the need to use appropriate technology, so that we save our water bodies and save our environment. And more importantly, I think that one of the key things about mining well and doing it well and doing it right is that you extract more per cubic meter than if you do it the wrong way. And I say this with the greatest of respect to miners out there, that I really think that they need to do Ghana a service by ensuring that they get the best of technology, and listen, what they do in an acre, they might get so much more if they work well within that acreage than do 10 acres and still get what somebody would have gotten in 1 acre. So these are my humble thoughts. But be it as it may, the IGP cannot win this alone. If the IGP does what he needs to do and takes the arrested folks to court, and the judge is lackadaisical, then what happens to the IGP? And it's an entire system that needs to be looked at. because if the jury and the judges are not on the side of ensuring that people pay the appropriate fines for flouting the Clean Water Act or any of these arrangements we have for water bodies in this country or for mining, then we'll be in a banana republic where right is wrong and wrong is right, and anarchy is what we might see. So I'm here not to necessarily be against mining, but I'm against underfunding or illegal or inappropriate ways of mining. And I think more education is needed. And from a medical standpoint too, I don't need to bore our viewers. We all know, we've seen pictures of children without eye, without limbs, hands and legs, and all these abnormalities, even multiple sex organs and things like that, or even a hole in the heart, and all these anomalies that are coming up, and almighty cancer. So even malaria we can't finish. Now we're bringing on cancerous things which will burden our country's health, and all mining companies need to be charged heavily for, whether they like it or not, water cleaning or water stations. We've seen what Ghana Water has said in some jurisdictions in terms of the cloudiness of the water, the impurities, the level of sediments and things like that, and I'm really, really troubled by it. And I think that we certainly need to do away with our way of thinking and approach this in an industrial type way. I end my comments.
Thank you, Doc. On the matter of drones, this is a story. Over 200 drones procured for Galamsey fights, and that's back in 2018. And it says over 200 drones have been procured by the government to assist in its fights against illegal mining across the country. The machines will be used to take live images in districts where the practice is rampant. Already some 150 persons are undergoing training on how to operate them at the George Grant University of Mines and Technology at Takwa in the Western region. The government's grand plan towards ending illegal mining includes the establishment of district mining committees in mining areas across the country, the deployment of Operation Vanguard, fitting tracking devices and excavators used in mining districts, and the use of drone technology, among others.
Because of this, let me just cite that just Etiwa, if you fully want to do operations and use drone 24/7, and hear me out, not that you've had somebody and then you go and now go look, 24/7 imaging, just Etiwa, you need not less than, maybe about 5 operational drones to do that, because you need to charge them and be running them. So, honestly speaking, 50 a bit too small. And I'm talking about just one forest, not the 9 that the minister has been talking about. So if you're doing 9 times 5, that's about a lot more than what we have.
I see.
And yeah.
Doc, thank you. A few comments. This is from, I think, Ken Williams. Says the LI 2462 must be outlawed immediately without paying attention to the minority who are determined to sabotage the state. Indeed, passing laws to destroy forest reserves and water bodies is a crime against humanity according to the UN Resolution 2375. Not only that, government officials involved in Galamsey must be prosecuted at ICC for their genocide against the state, because the unanimous FC will do everything to protect them. You see, there's also this one from Kofi Adinkra, who says, good morning. Issues with Galamsey can only be stopped when our traditional rulers take a bold step towards that. No governance or government can stop illegal mining without fraternization of these chiefs in our rural areas. My regards to my former boss, Lawyer Apia Dankwa. Okay, thank you. Comrade.
Look, it seems to me that perhaps we do not understand what Galamsey is and what its consequences are for our nation. And I think that we've been talking a lot of rubbish, absolute rubbish about Galamsey. Look, this is a criminal activity. The worst criminal activity, the most dangerous criminal activity, the most expensive criminal activity in our country. That's what we're dealing with. You understand? Galamsey affects every aspect of our lives. Every aspect of our life. Galamsey can actually lead to the extinction of our society. That's what we're talking about. You understand? I mean, there's evidence, medical evidence, scientific evidence, that Galamsey has led to the deformation of babies. There are reports in the mining areas of babies being born with multiple organs. There are reports of babies being born without eyes, without limbs, and so on. People who are born from birth with cancer, and so on. There's medical evidence for this. Children born without eyes, and so on. That's only part, small part of the Galamsey problem. Look, within the last 2 to 3 years, cocoa production has fallen by more than 60%. And if we claim that cocoa is the lifeblood of the economy, can you imagine the damage? Cocoa production has fallen by more than 60% within the last 3 years, mostly attributable to Galamsey. You understand what I'm saying? It is not just about cocoa production. It's affecting agriculture. You are talking about the fact that we don't produce enough food. We are importing tomatoes from Burkina Faso and so on. All of this can also be attributed to Galamsey. It's affecting agriculture in a very serious way. You understand? Inland fishing. Inland fishing. We have all these rivers crisscrossing our country and so on. Fish cannot survive in these rivers who are polluted as a result of the Galamsey activity. Inland fishing is at risk. We now live in a country bordered on the south by the Atlantic Ocean with all of these rivers which has to import fish. Does it make sense to you? We are importing fish. That's how bad the problem is. Listen, it's affecting our water supply. Don't you get shocked when you go into the supermarket and you see imported bottled water? Are you not shocked? Water. We are having to import water in a country like Ghana, traceable to Galamsey. The Ghana Water Company is collapsing. Look, it's gotten to the point where the water simply cannot be treated. No matter what chemicals you apply to it, it cannot be treated. Water supply facilities across the country are being closed down because of Galamsey. That's how serious the problem is. We're having to spend a lot more on our road networks. The road networks are being destroyed. Travel around the country and see the roads that we have. Why? The equipment that is being moved to these mining areas and so on, sometimes they are heavier than our roads can take. It's destroying our roads. Our security services are being compromised. They are being introduced to all kinds of practices which lower their morale, which lower their commitments, and so on. The security services are being destroyed completely as a result of Galamsey. Galamsey is worse, far worse than the Islamic insurgency taking place in Burkina Faso, Mali, and other places. It's a vicious crime. That is what we are confronted with. And so when we talk about Galamsey so bleakly, you know, and so on, I just wonder. This is the biggest threat to our survival as a nation. Biggest threat to our survival as a nation. So, I mean, if there's a government which cannot solve this problem, it is not worth the title of government. Any government which is not able to solve the problem of Galamsey is a useless government. We don't need that government. It ought to be the principal task of government to solve this problem. Now, you see, having described the extent of the problem, I don't think that I've adequately described the extent of the problem. So this is a problem which is crucial to our existence as a people. If we don't solve this problem, we cannot continue to exist as a country with a people. Very important. You understand? But you see, every now and then, all kinds of politicians, I mean all kinds of politicians, they come and tell us about how they are committed to fighting Galamsey, and how they are forming guards, and how they are bringing drones, and how they are doing that and that and that. Absolute rubbish, nonsense. SENA, look, Galamsey is a capital-intensive enterprise. Yeah. If you are not rich, you cannot operate the Galamsey business. You have to be very, very rich. Look, this is a business which involves the use of excavators, of bulldozers, of champagnes, and so on. These are not cheap. Now, look at the people who have been arrested for involvement in Galamsey. Poor people, ordinary people. People who cannot afford the excavators. People who cannot afford the champagnes. You understand? People who cannot afford the bulldozers and so on. Those are the people we are arresting and putting before court. Why are we deceiving ourselves? Why have we been deceiving ourselves all these years? The people we arrest and put before the courts are not the people operating the Galamsey enterprise. They are not the beneficiaries. They are not the investors. These are ordinary laborers. People who labor for pay, who work for the big guys. So don't let us deceive ourselves. When they arrest 25 people and put them before court, we think we are fighting. We are not fighting anything. The day we will start arresting the real investors, the big men and women, the politicians, the big businessmen and so on, who are funding this criminal enterprise, that will be the day when we'll be making strides to end Galamsey. Listen. Take all the reports of the fight against Galamsey. Take all of them. And when you read them, it's just a joke. We are joking. I haven't seen any serious thing about Galamsey up till today. The latest is that we are hearing the IGP instructing his men to be hard on Galamsey. What does that mean? What does that? What does that mean?
Physical hard or what?
They should go to the forest and arrest the laborers. Is that a solution? It is not a solution. You understand? It is not a solution. It's a waste of time. Why? We have all this investigative apparatus with so-called competent men and women. And these investigative bodies cannot establish the real kingpins in Galamsey. They cannot. All they do is to set up guards who raid forests and arrest small people. very, very small people and parade them before the cameras.
Yeah.
And they expect us to applaud them. We will not applaud you. We are not fighting Galamsey. It's a charade, complete charade. You understand? So, SENA, for as long as our mineral wealth is exploited for private profit, we would not be able to fight Galamsey. Our mineral wealth should be exploited by the state within the framework of policy which balances the need to generate some resources from exploiting the minerals and also the welfare of our people and so on. There ought to be a clear balance. That balance cannot be assured by persons exploiting the mineral resources for private profit. The exploitation of our minerals should not be run on the same stupid exploitative capitalist lines like we do everything. Because exploitation of minerals has dire consequences for all of us. You see Accra, the whole of Accra. The whole of Accra has only one carbon sink, which is the Achimota forest. From the 1970s, when I became conscious of the Achimota forest, there hasn't been any government, and I mean no government from the 1970s, has seen the Achimota forest for what it is, carbon sink. Something which keeps us alive. You understand? Now, if you're conscious of the consequences of environmental degradation and so on, you would not be doing what government after government has been doing to the Achimota forest. Every now and then they come and tell us that, oh, some family owns it. And that family is demanding it. And they are getting into some agreement. Let that family go to hell. Because it's our lives. The lives of 4 million people are at stake. The lives of 4 million people cannot be sacrificed for the so-called interest of a family in that land which has become the Achimota forest. And we must get this clear. It's only possible to protect the Achimota forest if we see it as a property that is necessary for the survival of 4 million people and more. If you begin to look at it as something which can be exploited for private profit, you get it wrong. So our minerals, our forests, our rivers, and so on, should not be administered, should not be exploited, and so on, simply for private profit. It should be exploited reasonably in a balanced policy which recognizes that these are essential for our lives, for the quality of life of 32 million people. If we don't, we would arrive at this destination. You understand? Today, if you read the newspapers, watch television, and so on, you would not be mistaken if you come to the conclusion that ORA, Operation Recover All Loot, is more important than the fight against Galamsey. Would you?
No.
Would you? No. And yet, the fight against Galamsey is more crucial to the lives of the people of Ghana than all the other projects that we are talking about. Indeed, the ability of government to create jobs and so on is dependent on defeating Galamsey.
Yeah.
You understand? The ability of government to provide health care to our people is dependent on the fight against Galamsey. And so, in any case, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Listen, we all know, don't we? Yeah. We all know. At least I have heard you have heard, all of you have heard, party officials claiming on tape, that Galamsey provides the fuel for the organization of their party, the resources that they use to organize their party. They have said it publicly. We know about it. The security services know about it. The president knows about it. The attorney general knows about it. That this is an area where political parties exploit to generate money in order to be able to bribe the very people who are being killed by Galamsey operations. We know it, don't we? What have we done about it? You want to fight Galamsey in Ghana? And you have read the report which was presented by Professor Frimpong Boateng to his government. Haven't we heard about it? How is Professor Frimpong Boateng being involved in this fight? At least he was responsible for it. He has some basic facts. He claims to have names and so on. What are we doing with Professor Frimpong Boateng? Me, what do I know about Galamsey? Concretely, about the people involved, and so on. So if you want to fight Galamsey, it doesn't matter the political party to which Professor Frimpong Boateng belongs. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he served the NPP regime. Yeah. What matters is that he has knowledge which we need in order to be able to fight Galamsey. How are we involving Professor Frimpong Boateng in this fight against Galamsey? And you see, my friends, that's why I'm getting increasingly worried by a new trend. A new trend, and it's a most dangerous trend, perhaps second to Galamsey. We have now arrived at a situation as a country where every national assignment is given only on the basis of which political party you belong to. That is stupid, yeah. That is criminal, that is anti-national. Today, let me say tomorrow, if ever the NPP should come back to power again.
Amen.
No, I'm not saying it is coming to power.
Amen.
I'm saying that if it should ever come to power again, and I chose my words very carefully.
Yes, amen to that.
Don't say amen to it. It doesn't deserve your amen. You understand? Master, I am quite sure that even to get employment as a medical officer will not be dependent on your qualification, but will be dependent on the party card you hold. What kind of country are we building? What kind of country are we building? And every now and then I go to social media and I see a list. So and so and so was a member of NPP. He's organizing this position, so get rid of him. Are you mad? Are you mad? We cannot decide everything on the basis of party affiliation. We've got to get beyond this. Begin to look at expertise, people's commitment to the nation and so on. That goes beyond party affiliation. You know, sometimes I get a sense that our politics has become like a war of gangs. You know, a war of criminal gangs. So one of them has captured some territory and is benefiting from it. If you manage to defeat that criminal gang, you establish your domain there like a mafia and you take control of everything for yourself, regardless of the national interest. And it's a danger that this country faces. This country must be governed as a country. It is one nation of one people with one common destiny. We need to revisit that slogan which General Achampong in his wisdom introduced. What is happening? My friend, what is happening in our country? So what about those who do not belong to political parties? They are not human beings anymore. So in our country today, if you do not belong to a political party, if you are not a member of a political party, you lose all your rights as a citizen. What nonsense is that? And then, so what? You know, we help you to win election and therefore we have an entitlement. You have what entitlement? This country, and SENA, listen to me very, very well. We went to an election. We elected President John Dramani Mahama as the chief manager of the affairs of this country. We did not sell Ghana to him. Ghana does not belong to him. Ghana does not belong to the NDC. Ghana did not belong to the MPP, and Ghana would never belong to the CPP. What we do when we go for elections is that we elect managers, and they are supposed to manage this country on behalf of all the citizens of the country. If they fail to do that, they cease to qualify as governments. And we must approach this fight against Galamsey with the same vehemence and within the same principle and so on. That's the only way we can move forward. That is the only way we can move forward. My friend, you see, in any country which is committed to basic principles of law, basic principles of equity and so on, if a citizen sits on national television and removes gold bags from his bag and displays them and so on, questions will be asked. If I'm lying, tell me. My friend, if I'm lying, tell me. It is only in this country that a citizen can go and sit on television and say, me, I don't deal in currency. What is dollar? Me, I carry gold bars in my bag. And then he removes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then he's applauded by the journalists in the studio. My goodness, what kind of a country are we building? What kind of a country are we building? Unimaginable, unbelievable, banana republic is what we are building. And in the process, we are committing suicide. We are clearly, as a people, committing suicide. Let's put aside foolish partisan interests and rally around national symbols. Let's work together as a nation. I want to see politicians in this country stand up and say, look, Ghana first. All hands on deck. We are facing an epidemic of stupidity. We are facing an epidemic of monstrous proportions. Everybody is needed to tackle this problem. Let's work together. I haven't heard that, I haven't seen that, and I'm seriously worried about the kind of nation we are trying to build. Galamsey will kill all of us. Look, the children who are being born without eyes, the children who are being born with multiple organs, the children who have cancer at birth, the children without limbs and so on, are they NDC or MPP? Tell me. Those children, are they MPP or they are CPP? They are not. These are innocent children. We should not allow our partisanship to lead to the deformation of our future, the deformation of our children and so on. We should not allow that to happen. I want to see a more serious fight against Galamsey that I'm seeing today, that I've seen in the past. You understand what I'm saying? It was a complete failure under MPP. MPP failed completely to fight this menace. This government promised to do something about it, and I want to see something better than what I'm hearing and better than what I'm seeing. You drive from Accra to Takoradi, and I'm sure many people have driven that route. And you see the color of the rivers. Just seeing the color of the rivers, it's frightening. Those who get down from vehicles and touch the water can see the density of the water. You can't do anything with that water. What is wrong with us? I mean, when I was growing up, in the Kwame Nkrumah estates in Kumasi, and I used to go to school in Patasi Local Authority Primary School. We used to cross the stream, the Kwadasu stream, and so on. In the morning, you put your hand in the water, fetch it, and drink it. We didn't fall sick. It was so clean. Indeed, if you stood at the banks of the rivers, you could see the fishes there because the water was so clean. Today, where can you get that experience? Where can you get that experience? And we are sitting down and playing hanky-panky, playing to the gallery, and the problem continues to fester, and people are dying. Look, Obuasi, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Obuasi. When I was growing up, the best oranges you could get in the world, and I'm not talking about Ghana, in the world, were Obuasi oranges. I mean, if you cut them, they look yellowish. Yeah. You understand? And they taste sweet. Until the Third World Network published some research findings which indicated that food grown in Obuasi had 10 times more arsenic than the World Health Organization accepted values. Doctor, if I lie, tell me. So today, we are even afraid to eat the oranges from Obuasi, the best oranges in the world. We have it here. You can't eat it because of the arsenic level. And sometimes, when we talk about galamsey, some of us tend to say that, we should stop small-scale mining, stop illegal mining, and allow the big companies to mine. Which big companies? Massa, the big companies, they are also guilty of pollution. All of the big companies are guilty of pollution. And there is evidence to back that. You know, sometimes we have important organizations that we don't take serious. An organization like WACAM should be taken very, very seriously by those who want to manage our mineral resources. Read the reports of WACAM. And if you read the reports that WACAM has produced over the years, you would come to understand that the big companies are no exception. They are also polluters. The big companies don't care about how many Ghanaians are dying. They don't care about who is suffering from the operations. What they care about is the maximization of their profits. And we need to build a society. We need to build a new society. We need to build a new Ghana, which is not driven by the greedy desire of individuals to accumulate and maximize profit. Monetary profit. We need to build a society in which everybody is the other's keeper. That's the only society which will work. Not this crazy capitalist society treading on the path of neoliberalism to nowhere. That society cannot work in Ghana, has not worked anywhere in the world, has not ensured or assured the prosperity of people anywhere in the world. We need to build a new society based on new principles. My goodness.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I had an unfortunate pleasure of traveling on that road all the way to, I think, Crawford when we went the last time. Yeah. For I was so saddened. It's not the only road. In fact, when you're going on the road to Tamale, you see it. Every other road, you see the problem. It's so bad. Anyway, thank you very much for staying tuned to the Matter of Our Talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. A couple of comments that you've been sending to us. This is Charles, who says, I agree with Mr. Pratt 100%. Our big men in charge can't distinguish between galamsey and illegal mining. I'm an energy infrastructure engineer on pylons. Illegal mining has an effect on transmission lines across the nation. I've worked in mines before. I can show you pictures. Charles, thank you very much for sharing that with us. Musa, but I'm really impressed with how the conversation on illegal mining is being handled so far. The approach is thoughtful and free of partisan rhetoric, which makes the discussion much more productive. I particularly appreciate how the analysis of the issue is debated, insightful, and focused on real solutions. President Mahama has shown real commitment to tackling the Galamsey menace, and it's encouraging to see a focus on practical, actionable steps. Let's keep the momentum going in this direction. Thank you very much. This is Lawrence from La Paz. Says, Mr. Pratt always talks well to Ghanaians. Ghanaians must listen to his words. Thank you. Good morning to you, Lawrence. And then there's this one coming from SNET, who says, SENA, this security being created for the fight against Galamsey, will it be permanent or temporary? Will it be a situation that whoever comes after President Mahama decides whether to continue with it or not? I have seen in Ghana how some public authorities provide solutions for certain problems which are not constitutional and sends us back to square one. If the NDC government is facing the same problem the NPP faced with same solutions suggested during the tenure of ex-President Akufo-Addo, example, the burning down of excavators, etc., then this raises a serious question. And you, the media, some of you should stop being the middlemen in this problem for the corporates by keeping facts and truth from the public. If they call us Gold Coast, then today we know that call is justified. And getting the right revenue from our minerals, let us use the example of Nkrumah when he gave the colonial masters the option to buy some items like cocoa on our terms or forget it. So now, is there a law that deals with how much of raw material leaves Ghana? Clap for Comrade Pratt for me. I believe he has a lot of names, but for safety, he's playing, he's playing politics with his submissions by not calling names. Mr. Pratt must also know that back in the days, the families trusted the government for their lands. Okay, so let's send that. Thank you very much for the comment. This one says, I support Comrade Kwesi Pratt when he says minerals should be exploited for the benefit of government and not individual. So I think a total ban should be ordered. Those benefiting are far less than the rest. Galamsey should be tackled in a warlike manner. Galamseyers should be attacked by land and by air. Nkrumah's removal brought this cancer of love for self and hate for country. The perpetrators of that evil have shown us why they overthrew Nkrumah. Clearly see in Akufo-Addo's governance. Kipo, sender from Tuna in the Savannah region. Then this one says, good morning, Mr. O, please, this Galamsey menace must be treated as treason. And people arrested in government who watch this evil continue and destroying our lives. Why? Because a president and his party wanting to stay in power, they tend to lack the political will to deal with this evil. They blind their eyes and block their ears from hearing and seeing innocent citizens suffering from all kinds of deadly ailments. These are African leaders. Are they serious? All of them, including the governments who fail to protect our water bodies, must face the ICC. Why should the African politicians be so wicked, loving wealth more than the lives of their people? Thank you for the comment. Some more. And this one from Aaron from Oyarifa says, in fact, MPP party must the party must be hanged to death for killing all our water bodies within 8 years and destroying Ghana. They still have the guts to talk in this country. They should bow their heads in shame. They are murderers of nature. Aaron sent that from Oyarifa. Thank you very much for those comments. More. Sami Mbubiashe says, all I want to say today is God bless you, Mr. Pratt. We need people like you to lead this country. There's Samson Van Zamaku who says, John Mahama, the president, was tagged with doomsday, but it seems he has not learned from the past. It seems some engineers working with either ECG or Greco are lying to the MPP are sabotaging once again this NDC government. The likes of these days are too rampant in my area. I feel it's not normal. The new NDC government must sit up. Sami sent that from Adenta. That's coming from Sami. Let me do a few more before we move on to the next issue for discussion. This one is Uncle Kwesi, good morning. Anytime I listen to you on this show, I feel happy. I wish you long life and strength to keep up with the good work. This is Adobe. I will send that from Tema. This one, hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Comrade Kwesi Pratt. Submission is great. May we play it every morning on all our station. There's a GH King Lord who says, Senator Kwesi Pratt to form a political party. We need him urgently. Let's see. There's Reverend Father Amponsa Ignatius James Achim Ntronan, I hope I got that right. Kindly inform our dear Comrade Kwesi Pratt that one nation, one people, and one destiny can be achieved in Ghana only when we do away with partisan politics and come out with an alternative system of government that promotes one people, one nation, one destiny. How on earth can a political party in government allow a die-hard opposition member to take part in the meetings of the executive, taking into consideration how destructive some opposition members can be? Don't forget what is happening in USA partisan politics. Thanks. Thank you very much for that one. Then Kweku Nimo in Germany. SENA, good morning to you in your wonderful panel. My special greetings to Comrade Kwesi Pratt, my mentor, who fearlessly faced government during the years 1979 and 1980s. He loves Ghana genuinely, so nobody can build on another one's vision. If you tempt, failure is what you will greet you. Mother Ghana needs managers and not damages. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. The CPP is coming back strongly to overhaul and correct all the mistakes. Kweku sent that from Germany and concludes by saying Galamsey is treason. We need to move on to another discussion. And thank you for sending those messages. Keep them coming. And don't forget, we are live on Radio Gold. We are also live, of course, on social media, Pan-African Television on Facebook, Pan-African Television on YouTube. Do join us. And when you are there, do share a comment or two on the discussions we're having. We just had a discussion on Galamsey. We are moving on to another discussion that has to do with two things that are similar in nature. Ken Oforiatta is suing national security and also suing the special prosecutor. National security, some officers for trespassing, and of course special prosecutor for what they call defamation. He says they have defamed him by declaring him a fugitive. And in that light too, the minority held a press conference where they said there was a raid on the residence of the former governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison. The Attorney General's Department said it was a search that was carried out with a search warrant that was acquired from the court. So we'll talk about that and then move on to other issues. And I'll start once again with lawyer.
Interesting times, you know. So the issue here is that one, a number of raids are happening. What's it called? Ken's house was raided. I think the Addison's house has also been raided. I think there has been a spree of arrests also ongoing. Yeah. All in the bid to fight corruption or trying to enforce what they call the Operation Recover or Loot. Now, once again, I think the starting point ought to be the Constitution. And then you recall that in 1992, when we took upon ourselves the 1992 Constitution, the focus was to guarantee for ourselves the rule of law. Because everyone was going to believe that that was the only way in which we can guarantee for us our right to life, our right to our liberties, and our right to pursue our own happiness. Also, I think it is instructive to note that when we elect the president, and the ministers are the agents of the president took an oath essentially to protect, defend the Constitution of Ghana, to be faithful to Ghana, that is, to be faithful to the idols of Ghana. And the ministers essentially being his agents, in my view, ought to be bound by those same obligations. So having said that, and taking into consideration the fact that in our Constitution we say that you are innocent until proven guilty, and in how we handle people that we suspect have committed crimes, we must be guided by all the values that is enshrined in our Constitution, all the values that they are meant to be faithful and loyal to. You understand? As in, we tend to play politics too much. As in, our focus has always been to do something to represent something. No commitment to actually dispensing with justice. Because really, when you take Addison's raid, they said they had a search warrant, but for the terms of the warrant, or the terms of that warrant include destroying his CCTV and all those things. Then what kind of impression do they give? You understand? And if you ask me, do they even need to raid Addison's house to pursue any criminal action against him? Because on top of my head, I think one of the critical issues that Addison is faced with is the fact that under his watch, monetary financing happened. Monies were printed without due process, without the necessary approval of Parliament. Do you need to raid his house? If that's the case, do you need to raid his house to establish that? Because Parliament is a house of record. So if you want to determine whether or not he did what he did without parliamentary approval, would you need to raid his house? Or is it a case of let's do something to represent something once again, to appease our base, without fighting for the cause of Ghana? You get a picture. And then I do delta into Ken's issue. You see, when it comes to the OSP and Ken's issue, my primary issue is why even the argument that was made in the establishment of the OSP was in 2016, when discussions were being had as to the establishment of the OSP. I think one of the key arguments made was that let's create an independent body who is going to handle what's called corruption-related matters that pertains to our politicians. We need somebody who was not partisan. You understand? But once again, because the focus was let's do something to represent something, the necessary legal framework that was going to create that body, that was going to make the OSP truly independent, was not done. Because there was a situation where the Constitution says that all criminal procedures shall be originated from what? The Attorney General. He shall have the power to prosecute all criminal matters. So that if you create the office of the special prosecutor without necessarily amending the Constitution, and you create it by just an act of Parliament, then an argument could be made that the OSP is not truly independent. And you see that lack of independence in how he's handled the Ken issue. Because he's attempted to prosecute, or he wanted Ken for matters that happened about 3 years ago. Why did he not have the cojones, the balls, the courage, the confidence to invite Ken when Anadu was the president? Yeah, because those days of let's do something to represent something should be long gone. We are building a country, and we need commitment. Because for me, the number one issue that we are plagued with, we have been dealt with, is a fundamental lack of commitment towards the cause of Ghana. Yeah, because so the OSP suddenly found his voice, had the courage to call Ken a fugitive. Because that's another issue. But the point is, the issues for which he invited Ken were issues that happened about 3 years ago. Why did he not invite him? Is the OSP truly independent? And the OSP himself, you recall in the matter of Professor Frimpong Martin, when he raised this issue about the Galamsey issue, was he even not persecuted as against the people whose name were mentioned there? Did the OSP invite any of the persons he mentioned in his report? Because we need to fight corruption. It's not something that we should play partisan politics with. It's not something that we should play that game of politicians always thinking about their optics as against really doing the work. It's because of that weakness within our corruption fight agenda. That will give Ken the courage, the confidence to sue the OSP. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the right, but that will give him the confidence to sue the OSP. Because in how this issue is being handled, my confidence as to whether or not we are going to see true justice is very low. Because people need to understand that whenever the government of Ghana prosecutes any individual, what the government of Ghana is seeking for justice for Ghana. Because if people have used the powers we granted them in a manner which is criminally adverse to the interests of Ghana, then they ought to be prosecuted, and there must be a clear commitment to succeed with that prosecution. But now they're handling it. In my view, they're playing politics with it. I know His Excellency John Mahama has mentioned what's called about amending the constitution. The issue of the OSP must be tackled in that amendment. We must amend the powers. If we truly want an OSP that's truly independent, then we must make the basis, the foundation of its power, the constitution, as against an act of parliament. We must be thinking about consolidating. Or rather, have a regime where all anti-corruption efforts are scattered in various laws. In one country, you have a Yoko, you have Shiraj, you have Office of Special Prosecution, you have police, you have CID, and yet we are innately very corrupt. So once again, let's do something to represent something, no commitment. If we truly want to fight corruption, why don't we consolidate all our anti-corruption laws into one body of law? So all of them. Because actually I'm even confused. One country, also one country. You go.
NIB.
Why? We also have national security. And yet, we seem to be failing in the fight against corruption. We are currently failing in the fight in the battle against Galamsey. We are fighting every single criminal activity that has been perpetrated against Ghana. And yet, we have so many bodies. So, they should amend the constitution, first of all, to create an OSP that's truly independent. So, what I mean is, they must amend the powers the constitution gives the Attorney General to be the source of all criminal prosecution, and create the OSP. That's if they are truly committed. Just from the constitution. Then you have an OSP who cannot be controlled by anybody. Because the matters he is accusing Ken of having done were matters that happened about 3 years ago. Why did you not have the courage to invite Ken? Yes, I'm tempted to delve into the legalities or not of Ken's claim, but I think I'll hold on to that. Yes, also is a fugitive. As in when you define who is a fugitive. Fugitive is somebody who is suspected of having committed a crime, who has left his jurisdiction and has not indicated, or has not shown any clear intention of returning. Yeah. So when the OSP wrote to Ken inviting and Ken wrote a letter back saying, listen, I'm out of the country and indefinitely. And I don't know when I'm coming back. Well, what was he telling the OSP? Two, when it comes to the declaration of somebody as a fugitive, I did not know that he has to be by a certain letter or whatever it is. As in, is there any law that says that you cannot declare someone as a fugitive by way of a press conference? And then when it comes to the powers the police has to arrest, the police has the powers to arrest. So when you check section 70 to 73, I think section 10 or 30 in the criminal procedural code, the police can arrest somebody without an arrest warrant when they reasonably suspect the person of having committed an offense. You get a picture. So if Ken truly believes, if Ken Ofuriatta truly believes that he has done no wrong, I advise him to subjugate himself to due process. Shouldn't be sitting in abroad and be throwing Ayampia. He should subjugate, because the impression he's given is that he's running away from due process. He must subjugate himself ASAP to due process. But for somebody who's had the privilege of having served at the level he served, his commitment to the cause of this country must be, as he must show it. So if he thinks that he has not done anything, he should not be running away. He should subjugate himself to due process. That's what we are asking. So for me, we are building a country. And our task is to build a country that aligns to the values of the people of this country. And those values are seen within the framework of the Constitution, the preamble, and all the values that are there. One of the core values being the value of probity and accountability. I advise the president that show real commitment to the fight against corruption. Understand? Show real commitment to the creation of a body that is independent partisan, in terms of partisan consideration. Understand? By amending the Constitution itself and making the OSP, or whatever name you will call it, a creature of the Constitution, not an act of Parliament. Because as things stands today, in my opinion, the OSP can be controlled by the Attorney General because he is using the powers of the Attorney General. And two, they should consolidate all corruption laws into one body of law and clearly define what corruption is. Because there's even a confusion there. Clearly define what corruption is. You understand? And in how we fight corruption, we should not deviate from the values that underpins our Constitution. The purpose of our Constitution, which is to guarantee for us the rule of law. And no circumstance should they undermine that. And you should remember that we are all, everybody is innocent until proven so beyond all reasonable doubt. So this raiding and creating unnecessary drama. But for a very long time, our politicians have been saying to us, drama won't help. They should knuckle down, focus on the job, and pursue justice in the interest of Ghana.
Thank you. Thank you. Doc.
Yeah. In fact, let me be very clear about one thing. In many jurisdictions, how you arrest or how you build a case matters, even if the person actually committed a crime. And I say this with the greatest respect to CIDs and the police machinery, the investigative bodies in this country. For example, if somebody's arrested with cocaine and there's any shred of perception that it was planted, the case can be thrown away, even if the person is a known drug dealer. I'm saying this with the greatest of respect. The entirety of the legal proceedings also depends on the process of investigation. If the process is flawed, if you use an illegal means to acquire illegal knowledge, let me put it that way, it doesn't make you right. And I say this by virtue of the whole process of going through a judge to get a warrant to go to somebody's house. There are reasons for that. Somebody's domain, somebody's empire, let me put it that way. Not even the president can enter anybody's house because he's president, because he's, whoever. You need authorization in the land. And I would hope that, we know that even to take away evidence from that person's house, some warrants do not permit it. Some warrants permit going in to look and not take somebody's CCTV material. It is too barbaric for my liking. It just doesn't taste like Akplen Fetiridechi. Governments will come and go. That is the surest thing, unless our democracy changes. And what was done then, if it was wrong, still is wrong. That one, you can cite me. Dr. Abango Kisi says that what the MPP did in, be it 2000, be it 2008, be it 2004, or fast track to 2017, if it was wrong, it still remains wrong, whether the NDC is doling the same thing out or not. Two wrongs never made a right. So let me be very straight with your audience that I have suffered for pointing out some things to my own party in the past. And if I've done it to my own party to suffer certain consequence, I'll tell the NDC the same thing without fear. and I think that we should be a country of rules and regulation, and a country that abides by the laws of the land. I'm almost tempted to believe that the next headline news might be a raid in Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's house. As for that, we don't know. It might create tension in this country because the Constitution affords an immediate past president some level of respect. Let me put it that way. Or shall we say, Dr. Bawumia's house, a former vice president. Some things have to change, even if you are in power. You have to wield it appropriately. Because if you do, quote unquote, street gang style things with appropriate authority and power, then an equal measure will be meted out to you. And I'm saying this with the greatest of respect to people who intend to do the right thing. Abodam for the will be a fear. And what I mean by that is that there are mentally deranged people in everybody's house. The NDC has, the MPP also has. And it's only a matter of triggering some of these quote-unquote hooligans. So I am hoping that the burden of ensuring that legal things are done rests solely and entirely on the governing authority. We who are not in power, necessarily might be more hooliganistic. But when you have power, you've been voted for. Overwhelming victory. That's the word I keep hearing. Overwhelming victory with the same votes that you literally got the last election. Then I will plead with the national security services in this country that, listen, we want to hold you to a higher standard. We changed, our government was changed because Ghanaians wanted a higher standard. So why come and do, quote unquote, similar or the same thing? I heard history has it that in Parliament, and this is a parliamentary joke, we had one member who was not very fluent in the English language. So when he would get up, he would tell the speaker that the same as Kintampo. Whilst his constituents was maybe struggling with drinking water, if Kintampo was struggling with mudslide, he would say the same as what Kintampo, because the Kintampo MP could talk fluently. And since he couldn't talk fluently, he would just say the same, the same, the same. Is the NDC going to play from the same book as the MPP? You touted certain things, certain bad habits about us. We are arrogant. We don't respect the laws of this country. People are corrupt. They haven't been moved. Is the NDC now telling me, Adwokisi, that in their government, because MPP was arrogant, they're also going to be arrogant? Because MPP was unable to shuffle people around, they're also going to do the same thing. No. Then, if I'm NDC, I'll be very upset. If I'm NDC and NDC has come to do what MPP did, I should be upset with my own party. Because we need to be walking a different line. And quote unquote, in all the history of Ghana, the NDC is quote unquote a longer serving government than the MPP. That is the fact. We've done, if we're looking at before Rawlings, or when Rawlings came, and then we started this democracy, NDC took the lead. And by virtue of that, has had governmental experience more than the MPP. So, naturally, we should expect better behavior. I would hope that the legal association in this country will talk to this, will speak to this. Not that they are going to be tainted with MPP colors, but the point is that we cannot be doing the same thing when there are more legal minds in this country, when we are supposed to be maturing in terms of our legal antics. I would end by making my key point. Criminal investigations are to be done within the ambit of the legal rules in this country. If you have strong evidence, seek the guidance of a judge on how you proceed to either confiscate my car or my property or whatever it is that I have. Even criminals have a right, let me put it that way. And the law is supposed to protect even quote-unquote criminals. Not to borrow from the US, but there are judges after Donald Trump for a process that they think was erroneous. And one of the senators yesterday was speaking, and she made a very strong argument that should people lose faith in the appropriate procedures, then what country do we have? That's the same question I have for national security services, that we're not in Afghanistan. We're not in war. In war, I understand you do things. We're not in Kosovo. We're not in Ukraine, where the slightest concern you have with national security, you go and sue people and do all kinds of things. I'm sure if we go into Ukraine right now, elements of dissent might be having problems within Ukraine because of national security reasons. Any upheaval, uprising might be a problem. So they'll watch it. You can quote me. But we are in a safe country. Power is handed over through ballot, votes, not guns, except for issues that were unacceptable after elections. So I'm sitting here on Pan-African TV, respectfully speaking to the agency heads, that it is no more muscle. We're in an era where you should be sophisticated in terms of your technology that you're using for crime investigation. You should be sophisticated in terms of making sure that you have the law on your side. If not, when it gets into court, the defense can make all kinds of arguments with regards to how you went about doing your investigation. And once they poke holes into that process, it literally demerits the evidence you have. It literally does. And there are many instances where the processes of arrest, when aired, led to the release of the supposed suspect. So, and in high crimes, things are also even more so sophisticated. How can you enter somebody's house, take his things? I hear, what, 5,000 Ghana cedis?
You said 10,000 Ghana cedis is missing.
I mean, it's unfortunate. The people you go to raid with, are you going to do armed robbery? What skill, what training do your people have that they may not even take away things that are for evidence? How do they know and determine that this is good or not? And what will the CCTV show you? Because I know most of the CCTVs do not necessarily film documents that the governor of Ghana was probably signing. So if you are interested in documents, is that how you get it? Most of the cameras in my small house, you can't even, zoom in to see a document and what is written on it. So I worry, and I think that this media reportage of this person has been picked up and blah 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 is becoming a bit too much. It's become like a musical chair, and it's making us lose respect in the processes, because it seems like anybody who somebody says anything about is picked up and then taken in for question. And I believe that I have said this, the special prosecutor has some level of cases he has to deal with, and the same should be afforded. So police service should have some things that they do investigations on, and we cannot now lump everything into OSP. To the extent that ordinary things that can be done at the district office now is being picked up. I used to say that I believe that if there's an incident in my jurisdiction, the local police have to attend to it. If it's above their pay grade, then it goes to region, then it goes to national. But it cannot be that an incident of no merit will end up at the national headquarters of police service. It is, you cannot manage a service that way. So I really would hope. I'm not a legal mind, but my basic knowledge is that crime investigation requires that you do things in a very acceptable and standard way, and that is all what I'm seeing, and we have over 1,500 appointees minimum in the administration of the previous government. Based on how they are moving, I think every weekend we'll hear 2 or 1 until the 4-year tenure is over. I would hope that should change, and things should be done. And let me add that people's reputation are being damaged. Before you can even explain yourself as to why national security picked you up or raided your house, it creates an embarrassment. It creates all kinds of perception about you. And that is another thing that maybe we ought to look at suing these agencies for damages, and maybe when that is done, because the FBI and other organizations like that have been sued, and when they've paid heavily, have been very careful in how they approach people during investigation. Maybe we need to look at that option where we take on, and I don't necessarily support all kinds of suits, but I think that maybe that will change the culture, of running these operations. But I'll beg the agency heads, if we did it Rambo style, it doesn't mean you should do it Terminator style this time round. And the same goes to these employee relations matter, where I think that in the future, maybe as a country, we need to put a stop to hiring 6 months to, what do you call it, end of your term. And I would have thought that should be maybe an approach of the new government, that we introduce a bill in this country that we know that any party that is governing, it's 3.5 years for your employment or appointments and things like that, so that you don't even dare employ somebody 6 months to the end of your tenure, so that all these unnecessary, if you're not employing 6 months, then that means anything beyond December 7th will not happen. And a month to December 7th will not happen. Okay. And I think that is how we ought to be approaching these things, to show that we've done reflection and we are going to do something much better. Okay. So, these irresponsible actions, which some people are thinking is right because they claim that the MPP did it before, I think it's childish. The NDC should not play from the same book that the MPP played from, because if that's the case, then what you're telling me is that your government is going to be doing all the wrongs that people punished us for. Okay. Then to what end? What's the benefit of bringing the NDC into power? So enough of these pickups and drop-offs. We never hear what happened when they picked up to. All we know is that they've released a person, which I think is becoming too much of a noise in my ears. And I would hope that when they really pick up, they really pick up based on a lot of investigation. In other jurisdictions, some of these things take about a decade before they even pick you up. When they pick you up to them, they know that the counts are plenty. If you get lucky with one, number 3 or 4 will catch you. You understand? So not single matters of seemingly corrupt issues, but concrete matters, so that when you pick up, SENA or SENA, then we know that what's happened, and we will only come to know that it is very serious crime, and then we are like, oh, okay, then this office, when they pick you up, then it means that it is serious. But now they are doing it like a counterback program, which throws out the weight of that office. It throws out the weight of that office. And I sitting here, unless somebody gossips about me, but I should have no docile of any such thing that merits being picked up for that office, based on what I know I've signed for in the past 4 years. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doc. A few comments, as always. This is, I think the name is Ubuntu France, says, what is the man in black trying to say? For what legal backing did the past finance minister have making his bank an advisory body for this country in collecting loans and all other financial impedance he did? GM will investigate Nanado when the time comes. The Constitution posits that he's subjected to that for the first 3 years after his tenure. He should rest, for MPP isn't coming to power anytime, so we should keep this. Okay, thank you very much for sending that comment. There's this one, says, hi, Sana, what is the minority leader trying to say in respect of the national security operatives trying entry into the house of the governor of the Bank of Ghana? Was their entry search into the home of Dr. Addison not allowed by a court of competent jurisdiction? Was Dr. Addison not spying on the staff and the operations of BOG at the comfort of his home? Are the operatives so poor to the extent that stealing 10,000 Ghana cedis from his home? The minority leader should lead Dr. Addison to the police to make an official complaint, other than resorting to press conference. Thanks. From Dr. Sontolo, Agona Hunter in the Western region. Thank you. Emmanuel sends this from Kumasi, says, please, Dr. Adumako is not abreast of what he's saying over there. As Addison complained of his missing money. Then there's Reverend Ben in DC, who says, reading the former governor of Bank of Ghana is not what happened. Obtaining a court directive to have his house searched for whatever they were looking for doesn't make that a raid. Let's choose our words carefully. The National Operatives did not act illegally, warranting the word raid. Senyo sent this from La. Says the MPP man doesn't seem to know the difference between a raid and a search, or probably trying to dance to the tune of his tiny little minority, which will keep them in opposition for decades. Boka Frank is also joining us. Good morning, Senator. Please ask him when he was in the year where he was in the year 2017 before his party people were doing the same. Boka sent that from Bato. There are many comments coming on this particular one. Says, please, the MPP man speaking is really showing whom they are, thinking they know more than anybody. He forgets how they went about investigations. We as Ghanaians are wise towards whatever they say. There's also, says, all the criminals in the MPP who looted state must be named and be prosecuted. Mahama is keeping long on that. Most of us that campaigned and voted for JM is not for anything than that, else he should make Ghana become like heaven. If he fails us on that, they will also be driven out for the thieves to take over again. No king nor any other person should interfere with these expectations of Ghanaians. Jake sent that from Asamankese. There's Dennis Akwete, who says, the Bible says that the law is made for man and not man for law. Oral must succeed, but things must be done with high standard and with openness, not to give room for any propaganda like we're seeing in the former BOG governor's case. Why didn't the stolen cash, as alleged, why wasn't it reported to the police? From the little we heard, the former BOG governor's house was searched in accordance with law. But if I were government, Richard Japan must be reassigned from the leading search operations, a situation which now gives opportunity to some to be dealing with the messenger instead of the message itself. Dennis, thank you very much. It says the MPP should come out and apologize for the wrongs they did to Ghanaians and stop pontificating. And then this one says, good morning. These MPP think Ghanaians are fools. When they were in power, they did worse things to their opponents. After they left power and what they did to the NDC, they're just receiving 3/4 of what they did. They have started crying. Whom are they crying to? There's a saying that do unto others what you want others to do unto you. Who was this man when the NDC was at the receiving end? Why are the MPP more human than others? A Square. Also, okay, I think it's Alasan. A Square from Tamale. Sena, it baffles me how people talk about the national security raid on former BOG's governors based on hearsay. Has anyone heard from the governor? Is the disrespectful minority leader his PR? Let's be serious in this country. Alasan Square sent that one. There's more. Says, Sena, we are in Ghana and we know it is hard to believe of the things stolen at the former finance minister's house. But we can't refuse the fact that the state went in there inappropriately. Hence, they are caught in the web, believe it or not. And from where I sit, I now find it difficult to believe because now in Ghana, many people have a lot of means to generate money or come out of trouble. Well, those are just some of the comments. Like, this one is attracting so many comments. Correct, Kwesi Brad.
Well, first of all, I have in front of me this newspaper, the new publisher of March 19, 2025, which is just the Thursday which passed. And it has a very, very interesting story. It says that popular politician in Ahmed Swali's case, murder deals, police grab suspect. And I've read the story. The story claims that the suspect who was arrested actually disguised himself, ran out of the country, ran out of the country, and came back clandestinely, and was arrested in a hair salon. And he was taken to court and has been granted bail. What an amazing story. You get what I'm driving at?
Yeah.
Somebody suspected of committing murder. The investigating authorities said that he actually disguised himself and ran out of the country. What does that mean? Why would anybody disguise himself and run out of the country and sneak into the country?
Yeah.
And the person is taken to court and is granted bail. Murder case, high profile case, exceedingly interesting. And then we are told that somehow, there's a leading popular politician whose name has come up in the investigations, and we are not told who.
Yeah.
Very interesting developments. So are these the investigating authorities we are talking about? I just wonder.
Yeah.
Are these the courts we are talking about? Now, I am not a lawyer like him. Just a layman. Okay? But if there's evidence that somebody who has been arrested for such a high crime actually disguised himself and ran out of the country and sneaked back into the country, there's a high probability of that person jumping bail.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a lawyer to understand this. And the courts have granted bail. And there's a very high-profile politician involved. That high-profile politician is being protected. The name is not even being made available to the public. It's being protected. His image is being protected. Are these the investigating authorities we are talking about? Are these the courts we are talking about? I just wonder. You see, yesterday, I was discussing all of these happenings with some friends of mine. And with particular reference to Mr. Ken Oforiatta, I mean, one of my friends said, he has no right to complain. I said, why doesn't he have a right to complain? He said, but he did worse things to Ghanaians. This haircut, pensioners, they couldn't access their own money to buy medicines.
Yeah.
They couldn't pay their medical bills. It's even possible that some of them died. So this friend of mine said, he deserves what he's getting. And I cringed. Immediately cringed. Then another friend said, why? What is happening to them is nothing compared to what they did to others. And actually went on to cite the case of Kojotu Mbuafu, who reported to Uyoko on numerous occasions, who was harassed for years and so on. So they haven't seen half of what Kojotu Mbuafu has seen. And then I remembered the case of my own very good friend, Mr. Atuahoy. He has never told this story publicly. Massa, Mr. Atuahoy, what happened to him? I mean, the investigating officers became his virtual home. He was always there. Tens of times, scores of times. I mean, he had no time to do any other thing. Wakes up in the morning, dresses up, and reports. And is questioned, and so on. So somebody says, what are they complaining about? They did worse, and so on. But you see, I listened to all of this carefully. The logic in all of this can only lead to deterioration. What standards are we applying?
Yeah.
If what they did to Chumbuafu was wrong, should it be done to somebody else?
No.
Even if it doesn't meet that threshold. If what they did to Mr. Atuahoy was not acceptable, should it be done to somebody else? These are important questions that we should ask and answer. Because it will help all of us grow up. Yes, it is true that the haircut, which was introduced by Mr. Kenoforiata, caused havoc. Actually forced a former Chief Justice onto the streets to protest, to demonstrate, unprecedented in our history. It is true. Okay? And so what? Please, let's be careful. And so what? You see, SENA, in my short life, I've seen so many things. And I have so many stories to tell. You see, I recall, I think it was 1991. No, 1986. I was in Oshafort. I was locked up in Oshafort with Akoto Mpao, Ralph Kugbe, and Kokubako. And one dawn, somebody shouted for us, shouted our names and so on. It turned out to be Mawuli Goka. Mawuli Goka. And Mawuli Goka told us that he was being taken to the firing range. They were going to kill him. Okay? They were going to kill him. And he said that he had a few hours to die. And he was urging us to carry on the struggle. I can never forget this. This was 1986 in Oshafort prison. When we were taking him away to go and shoot him, he stood by our window and told us to continue the fight and that he had come to the end. What fight was he talking about? What fight was he talking about? On the verge of his death, he gave us a mission. What was that mission? That mission was to ensure, as far as I'm concerned, that our experiences would never happen to any other person. So I've lived my life saying to myself that what happened to me should never happen to any other person, enemy or friend. So that is the principle with which I am going to look at all of the things that are happening. You see, a lot of people, I hear them say that there was a court warrant. What does that mean? Because all of us, including you, SENA, have had occasion to question judgments from our courts. We have had occasion to say that the Supreme Court was wrong in some of the decisions that it made. Now, if you have done that, what it simply means is that our courts are not divine institutions. That our courts make mistakes. That sometimes our courts side with political authority. That sometimes our courts are not even minded by the law. All of us have said that based on our practical experiences before. Now, if we have, how can we today simply justify an action because there's a court decision? Let's think about it. You understand? Let's think about it. So that's one point. This court warrant thing, I am not sure is sufficient justification for entering anybody's house or for doing any of the things which have been done. I'm not sure that simply obtaining a court warrant justifies things. I'm not sure. I am not sure. I'm simply not sure. Okay, that's one. Now, In our days, well, I'm still alive, you understand. One of the protections that we had in those days was the habeas corpus law. Yeah. Habeas corpus law. So that if you are arrested and justly and so on, your family or people related to you and so on can go to court on the basis of habeas corpus and request that the state should produce your body in court. It was some kind of a guarantee, especially in those days where there were extrajudicial killings and so on. The habeas corpus law became an important law for protection against the arbitrariness of the state. You understand? Then the PNDC passed the habeas corpus amendment law. Master, one of the worst things that happened in the history of Ghana in terms of the application of the law and upholding the rights of citizens was the PNDC's passage of the habeas corpus amendment law. Do you know what that meant? Under the habeas corpus amendment law, if you are arrested and you file on the basis of habeas corpus and so on, all the state had to do was to come to court and say that you have been arrested for national security reasons. Finish, case closed. So it rendered the habeas corpus law inoperative, useless, completely useless. And people suffered for this. I don't want this to be ever repeated. So it was lawful for the state to refuse to produce your body in court. It became lawful. So if you're talking about what the law permits and so on, let us be guided by some of these things. You understand? Yeah. They are lawful, but is that the path we want to tread as a people? And so on. Now, I believe very, very strongly that the state institutions, including its investigative institutions and so on, ought to act according to law. Otherwise, we'll be thrown into the jungle. State institutions, especially the investigative authorities, the NIB, the CID, the so-called Yoko and so on, all of them ought to operate according to law. It's a very firm belief that I have. Even when they are dealing with murderers, even murderers have rights. Murderers, those who commit murder, have rights. And we cannot violate those rights simply because they are murderers and so on. We should understand that very clearly. So today, I asked myself, why was Henry Addison's house...
Ernest.
Is it Ernest?
Ernest Addison.
Well, forgive me, myself. There are so many names in the world, sometimes you can't get all of them right.
Yeah, that's right.
Why was Ernest Addison's house searched, raided? I don't know what words to use. I don't know. Do you know?
No.
SENA, do you know? I don't know. All the explanations that have been given and so on doesn't tell us anything about how and why the house was searched. You understand? So on what basis do I make a judgment? Master, on what basis do I make a judgment as to whether what happened was right or wrong, lawful or unlawful? We don't know anything. We are told that when they went to his house, and this is Afenyo Makin. Now, Afenyo Makin, I think sometimes he talks too much. He's so much in a hurry to talk that sometimes he leaves his brain behind. You understand? There's this gentleman who is talking, and what is he telling us? That when they went there were 3 official cars in the house. Okay? And that those 3 official cars were driven away, and later his drivers went and picked the official cars and so on. I'm asking myself, retired governor, what are 3 official cars doing in his house? He is not entitled to any official car. If he retires with the vehicle, it becomes his personal property. It is no longer an official vehicle. So if there were 3 official cars in his house, then something was wrong. But this information is coming from Afenyo marking. Afenyo marking. I can't believe it. 3 official cars. What were they doing in the former governor's house? Official cars. 3. Not 1, not 2. 3. Why? It doesn't end there. We are told that there were empty money boxes in the house. What does it mean? First of all, what is a money box? You know, children, they keep these small boxes of this size. Susu box, thank you. And they keep coins inside and so on. That's a money box, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So if they found these types of money boxes in his house, what is the problem? Did they find huge, gigantic money boxes in his house which carry 2 billion? And if they did find huge, gigantic boxes in his house which carry 2 billion, what is the inference? That some monies were carried from the central bank to his house and emptied, and the boxes left behind. Is that the inference? And if that is the inference, why are we not being told? What kind of boxes did they find in his house beyond them being money boxes? What kind of boxes? And how are those boxes related to the search on his house? Did they go to his house because of those money boxes? Or they accidentally found those money boxes and so on? I don't know what to make of this. I simply don't know what to make of this. Now listen. In the campaign for the 2024 elections, President Mahama made a bold promise to the people of Ghana. He said that if he was elected, those who have stolen our monies will be made to cough the monies out. 1. They will be punished for stealing the money and so on. And the people of Ghana accepted this and voted for him. So part of his mandate is to recover what they call the loot. Part of his mandate is to punish those who looted. Nobody can quarrel with that. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody can quarrel with that. But then everybody expects that some important principles of law should be upheld. And one of the most important principles of law is that every and anybody must be presumed to be innocent until convicted by not just a court, but a competent court. You understand what I mean? And this is a principle all of us must respect. This is a principle all of us must uphold. Okay? So it is important that even those who are suspected of having committed crime should be made to enjoy their full rights as citizens until convicted by a competent court. It's an important principle that we cannot play with at all. You understand? Now, for me, I must say that one of the texters, Dennis Akwete, made a point. And Dennis, I salute you. You understand? I fully agree with you. Sometimes the aesthetics of cases become more important than the substance. You understand? And at the center of all of these so-called raids, searches, and so on, is this personality called Japa. I have nothing against Japa. He may be doing his work as assigned to him by his superiors and so on. You understand? But we cannot forget that just a few months ago, he was in court being tried. And we remember the tape recordings and all of those things and so on. All of those things color his actions today. You can't take those things out. So sometimes it is so easy for people to assume that this is vengeance, payback time. It may not be the case. It may not be the case, but I'm talking about the aesthetics.
Yeah.
So therefore, I agree with Dennis Akwete that if things must be done and so on, why must it be done under the leadership of what is his name? Japa. Why? Somebody must explain. Because it seems to me that they are not paying attention to the aesthetics. They are not. Nobody is paying attention to the aesthetics. But the aesthetics are as important and valuable as substance in these matters. You understand? So that's part of the problem. Now, I'm sitting back and I'm wondering, I'm really wondering, SENA, Bank of Ghana, you say his name is Ernest Addison.
Yes.
If any government, any serious prosecution authority wants to investigate Ernest Addison and prosecute him, do you have to search his house?
No.
Tell me, do you have to search his house?
No.
Because what we were told, and I'm not saying it, what we were told was that he illegally printed currency. Illegally printed currency. Would the evidence for that be found in his house?
No.
No, not at all.
We were told that he took certain actions which led to substantial financial loss to the state because it was without parliamentary approval. Is the evidence for that available in his house?
No.
So think back. All the things that were said about Ernest Addison, you think he cannot be prosecuted without going to his house? So this going to his house, what was it meant to find? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they have answers, but I don't know. Nobody knows. The only people who know may be in national security. You understand? Maybe in the Attorney General's office and so on. I wish that these investigations be carried out in a most transparent manner. In a manner which does not give the targets of investigations and so on some high moral grounds, to turn around and to do some of the things that we are hearing and seeing today. Let these investigations be based on law. Let the rights of the accused be respected. And let convictions take place and nobody would have anything to do with that. You understand? Now, look, NPP. Everybody knows what is happening in the NPP today.
Yeah.
The leading member of the party is here. Former member of parliament is here. Everybody knows what is happening in the NPP. Okay. If the NPP actually thinks that the way forward is what Afenyo Makin is doing, God bless them. If the NPP really thinks that the way forward lies in numerous press conferences of no substance, God bless them. Because what is happening in the NPP is a really substantial movement leading to the establishment of the true values of the party.
Yeah.
It's the true values of the party which is in contention.
Yeah.
You understand? And until that is resolved, this noise making, sometimes childish in the extreme, would not help anybody. It will not help them. It will not help the country. It will not help anybody. You understand? So, what is my position? My true position is this. No citizen is above the law. And if you say that no citizen is above the law, what you also imply is that no citizen is under the law. I mean, all of us have to be treated with equal measure, irrespective of our party affiliation and so on. All of us, let all of us, and I was wrong. Every citizen should be under the law, not above the law. So let all of us be treated, under the law and not above the law. Citizens have rights guaranteed by the Constitution, guaranteed by legislation passed by Parliament. It should work. You understand? It should work. I am in sympathy with the position which was taken by my good friend, lawyer Appiah Dankwa. Because when the Office of Special Prosecutor was being created, I objected to it, the manner in which that office was being created. It was only going to lead to chaos. But nobody listened. Because one, the NDC members of Parliament did not want to oppose the process so that they would be thought of as persons who didn't want accountability. So they went along. The NPP members of Parliament went along, not so much so that they believed in what it was being done, but because the executive wanted to make a point. It was received public applause and so on. So we established the Office of Special Prosecutor, pretending that it was an independent institution, when the Constitution says very clearly that the power to prosecute is vested in the Attorney General. That has not changed. Every other law is supposed to be inferior to the provisions of the Constitution. And yet, we have Parliament establishing the Office of Special Prosecutor and pretending that it's an independent institution and so on. One of the reasons why they claimed that we needed to establish the Office of Special Prosecutor was that the Attorney General was appointed by the President. Who appoints the Special Prosecutor?
The President.
Did we go or did we come? I mean, sometimes you can't believe what we do to ourselves. So we established this Office of Special Prosecutor, and in the beginning, there was so much euphoria and so on, not so much in the office, but in the person who was going to occupy the office. Because the person who was going to occupy the office was an NDC person, or had been associated with the NDC and so on, had actually become vice presidential candidate of the NDC at one point. So people in the NPP were happy to say, their own man is the one who is going to be dealing with them. And so on. You lie? I lied? No. They were so happy. That was the whole point. Today, I'm sure that there are people in the NDC who are also so very happy. And you know what they are saying? Oh, we didn't appoint him. It is their own appointee who is dealing with them. And so on. Should we run a country like this? Should we run a nation like this? I am not so sure. I think we should clean up our act. You understand? As for Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, I think he should be made to understand in clear language that his citizenship of this country is not superior to the citizenship of any other citizen. He's a citizen like SENA. He's a citizen like Kwame Mensah from Ashirasi. You understand? His citizen is not superior to the citizenship of my good friend in Bolga, Atinga, and so on. He must begin to understand that. And that at some point or now, the people of Ghana would ask him to account for his stewardship. It's a legitimate demand. You can't sit in the Ministry of Finance and make all these important decisions of life and death for a country and not be asked to account for your stewardship. You cannot be president of this republic and at some point not be asked to account for your stewardship and so on. So he will be asked to account for his stewardship. Now, if he has done everything according to law, if he has not broken any law, he should not have any fears. You understand? But if he's done something against the dictates of our law and so on, Of course you should expect that the rod of justice will lash him at the back.
Yeah.
That's if he's lucky.
Yeah.
If he's not lucky, it will lash him on his forehead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I still think we do have some 9 minutes. Quick comments on the last topic, on the change in the security front. Very quick comments. And this time I stand with Doc.
You want me to go first?
Yes. 2 minutes.
So let me be a bit categorical here. That I'm hoping that in the future our national security will not be politicized. It's very important. We need to be very apolitical about it, in the sense that their duties and functions are not necessarily for the party, but for the country, and it should tie us back to the fact that we were talking about doctors and nurses who in the future may have to show their party affiliation before they are granted the opportunity to work. I, as a medical doctor, will not ask if you're NDC or MPP before I attend to you, or if you're a criminal or not a criminal before I attend to you. So I think that I think that the removal of or the change of these agency heads or leadership of the security apparatus creates another upward mobility for others. I think that in as much as possible, maybe their tenure should be made 6 years, so that it's not influenced by any president when they come, in their very first 100 days or 120 days. So, and those are administrative ways of, as it is, reducing the presidential influence in some of these national security or security services arrangement. In other jurisdictions, these heads even campaign and are voted for, and that way they are independent of the presidency. So we need to, as we move into the future, look at this and then ensure that the code of conduct. May I just add that I have seen some effort being made to undo everything that another government did, in terms of, let me just cite, some of the people who were arrested or charged. The Attorney General comes and then just, unwind everything, and IGP2, those who were branded as criminals are now, so I think that these things need to change. Okay. It can't be that under SENA's tenure, a thief is arrested, and because I've become the new IGP, that thief no longer, by law, is a thief. That is very unacceptable, and our credibility as a nation will go down the drain. So these are things that should be looked at. Okay. I'm not saying that the Attorney General is wrong in some of the things he's done, or some of these security heads are wrong. Cocaine cannot then become powder, because it's a different regime. We need to be very clear about these things. If not, every crime committed under MPP's government will then become non-criminal under NDC, and vice versa. And this has to be looked at.
Okay. Thank you.
So those are my 2 cents on this one.
Right.
In fact, let me say that I largely agree with the position Donnie is saying, except to add that we should be guided also by what happened on what we call a day of shame in this country, February 24th. On that day of shame, the person in charge of security in this country, IGP, the head security, orchestrated this generational crime, not just to Ghana, but to Africa, by the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah. It was IGP. Is it Hali or whatever his name is? And I think the head of, So we should be guided by that. So as in the ideal situation, yes, you have tenure and all, but because of our checkered history, without some of our security people have acted. I think it was that thinking that caused the framers of the Constitution to give power to the president to be making this kind of changes. So yes, for me, at the end of the day, when there's, based on that history, I think the president, you understand, in his duty to maintain the security and the stability of this state, I think he should have a say in who, and a serious say in the people that man the security agencies. Because we shouldn't forget our history. Every 24 February we do a day of shame. The perpetrators of that day of shame were the IGP, head of the military. And so that's my stake. So on that basis, I tend to support the president in exchanging the security guard.
Correct.
I think we should be exceedingly careful.
Yeah.
Not to make the term of office of security chiefs coterminous with the term of office of politicians. There's a huge danger there. If you have an IGP and army chiefs who know that when government changes they are going home, they can never dispense justice and they can never do their work independently. So it's a danger when we create the impression that every IGP goes with the government which appointed it. It's a serious danger to our democracy. We should depoliticize the security institutions to the extent that it is possible. And I'm not seeing that now. And I'm very, very worried. Okay. Now, I know there have been lots of comments about Inspector General of Police Dan Parry and how he has been removed and so on and so forth. SENA, look, I want to be exceedingly objective in this matter. I mean, if you were President John Mahama, seeing all this campaign, heavy campaign against Dan Parry, every morning, every afternoon, on every radio station, you know, even to the extent of suggesting that his date of birth is false, and that he's so unpopular in the police service and so on. Every politician would remove him. At least for the purpose of getting some acceptance within the police service. You understand what I'm saying? So President Mahama was put under extreme pressure to take this action against Dan Parry. The day Dan Parry's removal was announced, there was some orchestration about jubilation in the police barracks and so on. All of that points to why he probably was removed. You understand? But you see, I like to think above this. And it's a fact. Nobody can deny this fact. That under Dan Parry, we have some of the cleanest by-elections in our history. The police acted so professionally to the extent that people in the NPP were angry with Dan Parry. In fact, in the run-up to the elections, there were elements in the NPP who actually insisted that Dan Parry should be removed and that he was not good for the NPP in the elections. These are all public facts. I'm not making them up, they're all public facts. Somehow, just before the election, the current IGP, a special position was created for him as deputy IGP. And he was put there just before the election by the New Patriotic Party. What was the reason? I don't know. What was the reason? What had they seen? And so on. I don't know. Now, the point I'm making is that when somebody goes to this extent of working to ensure at least, if for nothing at all, free and fair elections, I don't think that it should be treated in a shabby manner. I think that the message we have to send out there is that those who stand up for the country, those who insist on operating under the law, those who insist that elections must not be rigged and so on, will be saluted at least. The position of IGP is not for anybody on a permanent basis. You understand? Any police officer qualified can occupy it and so on. It's not Dan Paris' personal property and so on. But I insist that even if he has been removed, he must be given a dignified exit. He must not be treated like some shabby criminal and something. Given what he did, especially in the conduct of elections in this country. He has set a record in the conduct of elections in this country that we must respect. And I think that Dan Paris should not be treated in a shabby manner. Finish.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, that concludes the show for today. Just that there are a couple of comments coming to me on this matter of the raid on the BOG Governors Bank. This our YouTube page. Kofi Asamoah says, SENA, the National Security said the former governor's house because of the security monitor installed in his house, monitoring all activities in Bank of Ghana after his retirement. Setoju Ruben says, monitoring happenings at the bank. Angukwe say, please, is that fair? So it looks like that because that has come from...
Is that the way to dismantle a CCTV camera? If the problem is that there was a CCTV camera in his house, which was monitoring developments in the Bank of Ghana, do you need to send armed men there and go and do all these Rambo style things? You can easily unplug it. What is the problem? This is the way to go. And you also happily read this to make your point.
No, I just needed to go. This is okay. So,
is that the way to go?
No. You might read insults to you on air.
Master,
I'm just saying.
if there's a CCTV camera in the Bank of Ghana that Ernest Addison uses to monitor things, what do? You know the fact. Just dismantle it. Why do you go to his house with armed men and so on? I mean, these statements make even the case worse.
Well, a couple more comments. This Prince Henry Koforido says the MPP who always preach about democracy and freedom of speech is now gagging people to speak. Well, the people was exhibiting arrogance in power and still exhibiting arrogance in opposition. Okay, thank you very much, Prince Henry. Who sent that from Koforido. So those are some of the comments. Many more comments being sent in. But let's first indicate to you, well, this Thursday, the coming Thursday, will be 27th of March. 2025. I've been announcing for some time the final funeral rites of Dr. David Percy. And that will happen this coming Thursday at the Lashibi Funeral Home. So that's where it will happen. Start from 9 a.m., 3 p.m. The interment will be private, but we can be part of the final funeral arrangements, be part of the ceremony, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Lashibi Funeral Home. The family is inviting all friends and sympathizers. And I believe that if you watch this show, and perhaps if you ever listen to, if you watch Pan-African TV, follow Radio Gold, Dr. Percy's name would always resound in your ear. We are all friends and sympathizers of Dr. Percy. Be a part of this. Let's join the family to mourn someone who we all held very highly. On that note, we'll conclude today's show. A big thank you to Komeko Isipra Jr., who is General Secretary of Socialist Movement of Ghana. And of course, nice to always have lawyer Andrew Apia Dankwa, who is a spokesperson for the Movement for Change. Dr. Aduma Kokisi is former member of Parliament for Anya Sowutum. They join us today to discuss the topics that we put forward today. And of course, all the best to Kojochum Boafu. Well, I'm SENA NOMBO, and from the crew here at Pan-African Television, we'll see you same time next week. Do have a lovely weekend and a fruitful week.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.